Hey guys, welcome back to another update of NAT, a weekly update here. So we'll just get right into it. Of course, if you like this video, please give it a like and make sure to subscribe. And so NAT was up finally this week. We have 1 week where it was up by around 2%. Of course, over the month, it's still down from like $4.10, down around 11%. And of course, we're still holding all of our NAT shares, and I'll explain to you why. Of course, I'm still relatively optimistic that NAT will be trading more or above $3.65 in the coming months, and hopefully in the future or in the years to come, right? Um, so of course, but in general, the reason why we have such a depressed stock price is, of course, the spot rate earnings are just pretty dismal right now. So as of Friday, the spot rates were 2,700, as compared to it costs like around 8,000 just to maintain or just to have the Suezmax vessels become operational. So they'd be losing money if they contracted it out at $2,700. Um, However, this does represent an uptick, as we can see here, as of Friday. So, there is some good news, but of course, these spot rates change from day to day, right? And as we can see here, if we're looking at the tanker market in general in 2020, as we are right now, this is represented by the blue line, of which I just circled. So, of course, we have never seen these low spot tanker rates in 2 years, right? So 2018 levels are represented here, 2019 levels are represented here, and of course we're even lower at the same time as in 2018 and 2019 as we are now, right? Hopefully, coming into the winter, which we'll see a special report that actually says like these tanker markets are very cyclical. Generally, these spot rates do tend to increase, so hopefully we'll see something like this where the spot rates do increase. But of course, only time will tell. Right now, we're not looking too hot. So let me just erase this here and make it a bit more clear. So last week, our spot rates were 4,800 on average for the Suezmax vessels, of which NAT owns 23 of. And this week, we have decreased that to 3,800 as the spot price. So again, not looking very good, but I do think that this is short term, and that the tanker market will be on the uptrend in maybe a couple months. Well, again, only time will tell. And of course, the reason why I'm still holding on to my shares, again, if we saw just numbers like this come out of where, an NAT or a Suezmax vessel would not even be operational because they'd be losing money if oil companies contracted out their ships. The reason why I'm still holding my shares is because I do believe that this paragraph here explains very eloquently the cyclical nature of the oil tanker market, and this is pretty much the reason why I'm still holding my shares. Let me know, by the way, if you're still holding your NAT shares, and what price you got them at, and sort of what your break point is, or how long you're going to hold NAT, right? Plus, of course, they have a dividend, which is another reason to keep holding. So let's just read here. Tanker shipping is a highly cyclical business with freight rates driven by numerous factors. But supply and demand are the main drivers. So vessel supply is one factor controlled by the shipping industry, and supply of vessels is impacted largely by capital flows. So this is very clearly depicted right here, where in the midst of the pandemic, you would have to pay, if you're an oil company, you would have to pay 120,000 just to store your oil on Suezmax ships, right? Which is just an insane amount considering that right now we're sitting at like 3,800. And why is this? Because there was less of a demand of oil, but oil producers were slow at shutting off their oil wells. So of course there was a oil supply glut, and what do? They needed to store that oil, and so they looked to oil tankers. And of course, it takes around 2 years to build a tanker. So this caused the spot rates to shoot up, and companies like NAT to earn a tremendous amount of money, right? So let's get back to the report. So a tanker market cycle generally begins with an oversupplied market where too many ships depress any earnings, and therefore the capital flows out of the sector. And this will cause some owners to get rid of their older ships, and these become uneconomical to run. As vessels are removed, the market will become rebalanced. Owners will start earning more profits, and more capital flows into the sector as spot rates and contracts for vessels increase in price. This encourages owners to start ordering new tonnage, ordering new fleets, pretty much. Although the lead time on delivery is at least 2 years. Like I said, it takes a long time to build these vessels. So once these newly contracted vessels start delivering to the market, it will slowly once again become oversupplied and earnings will hit another trove. And we are back where the cycle started. So these cycles are of varying duration, but generally take 5 to 10 years to complete. Okay, but of course they're highly seasonal, as we just saw with what happened with the pandemic, right? So right here, so the 1 year time charter rate is represented by this dark blue line. So we can see, 1996 to like 2000, it was relatively flat. Had an uptick from 2000 to like 2003, and then it downtreaded again to 2004, and we saw a nice bull run or a nice increase in 1 year time charter rates from around 2003 to 2008. Again, around like 5 years there. And then again, another decrease in the time charter rates from 2009 all the way to like 2014. And now generally a bit of an uptick here from like 2014 and beyond. Okay. So again, this just represents the highly cyclical nature of the market. Um, and I do believe that we're sort of in a weird position because we've had a huge uptick in the freight rates, but not because of any sort of there was an artificial shock to the supply and demand because of the pandemic, right? So I believe things have calmed down, and of course, if we look at NAT stock, as we can see, like the 6 month trend, this used to be a stock trading at like $9 in the midst of pandemic and has decreased by over 50% since then, but I do believe it has room to run upwards after because of the cyclical nature. I do believe that although spot rates are depressed right now, they will hopefully continue to uptick in the coming months, especially since, as we can see here, this is just the average monthly VLCC rate. So, of which, of course, like Suezmax rates and VLCC rates are very highly like intercorrelated, right? So we can see that in the winter months, January, February, and even March, we can see that the spot rates are generally pretty high, representing at like $45,000. And in the summer months, they're sort of like the spot rates are depressed, and even coming into September and October in the fall. But come November and December, the spot rates generally tend to increase in price. So it costs more for oil companies to um, to put oil on VLCC ships and also Suezmax vessels, right? So again, this is part of the reason why I am optimistic as spot rates hopefully come to increase in the winter months. This will also push the NAT stock price up. And I was looking at it, and actually NAT tends to uptrend in the winter months. I think probably because of this, right? Um, so this is just, an article that I think gave me more confidence in my investment in NAT, and this is part of the reason why I'm holding. Is just I believe that if I sell right now, I will one miss out on all the dividends, but I will also be missing out on hopefully some share price appreciation coming into the winter months. But again, I'll keep you updated when I sell. But of course, right now we're still down on our position. Okay, and I wanted to look at where to find a clear picture of insider trading of NAT, just because someone commented, and I did a video about it, of how NAT sort of and other tanking companies practice some shady financial practices. So they only announce like when they buy shares, but they don't announce when they sell shares, right? So when you go onto the NAT website, you will see time after time they say, oh, like the CEO's son bought a lot of shares, but they never announce when they sell shares, right? And the best thing that I could find from NAT was institutional ownership of shares, and as we can see here, a lot of institutions bought into NAT in first quarter, and however in second quarter it was sort of around even. So 12 million was bought into NAT and 14 million was sold out of NAT. And in Q3, around 10 million was bought and 11 million was sold, so relatively stable. So I mean, again, this doesn't represent insider knowledge or anything or insider trading, but it does represent that there is some amount of institutional interest in NAT in 2020 so far, as we can see here. And of course, when I looked at NAT insider activity from like the NASDAQ website, there's no data that's currently available. Neither on this site, which is usually pretty good in terms of giving insider trading info, right? It just has like a lot of a lot of media coverage on NAT, right? But anyways, that's the update right now. Of course, we're still hoping for an uptick of NAT into the coming months. Let me know what you're doing with your shares. Again, if you like this video, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe. And I hope to see you guys next time. Take care and have a fantastic weekend.